Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2 preview and predictions.
Yeah, guys, we are going back to Brooklyn. It is NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2 preview and predictions. This card looks stacked. I cannot wait for this show this Saturday. Really, in particular, for one matchup, which I know we'll get to. But really, this whole card from top to bottom looks like a hell of a lot of fun. We always like to measure our anticipation at the start of each preview and predictions. I'd say my anticipation for this show, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. What about you, partner?
Yeah, I'm around an 8.5, but we're both definitely high up on that scale. I'm pretty psyched for this show. And I got to tell you, man, the one match that you're really excited for, I'm also excited for, but not nearly as much as a few other matches on this show that I am insanely hyped for.
Oh, certainly. And, no problem with that. That's why we're here. I'm ready to dissect this card whenever you are, my friend.
Okay, well, hey, man, believe it or not, this might be insane for you to think about, but I was actually forward thinking and organized enough to go out of my way to look up this card and put it in the description for this video before we even started in the order I thought we should cover it.
Okay, that's fine.
That means that the first match we're going to be covering is Austin Aries versus No Way Jose.
Interesting. Okay. I think this is going to be a great match. And I think, hopefully, if things go the way that I would personally have them go, this is going to be kind of a career-defining match for No Way Jose. This is going to be the kind of match where he elevates his profile in the aftermath of Brooklyn 2. Now, that's not necessarily to be conflated with, I think No Way Jose is winning this match. I'm going to tell you guys right now, and I wouldn't even really regard this as a spoiler, I struggled a lot more with matches on this card than I believe I did with matches on the SummerSlam card, as far as who was going to win and who was going to lose. But you know what? I think at the end of the day, I am going to say that No Way Jose is going to win this match, but I do it very tentatively. So I say No Way Jose goes over. He wins on the big stage to make a really great impression in NXT. What about you, partner?
Yeah, I really am hoping that that's the case. And for the sake of maintaining my sanity, I'm actually picking No Way Jose to win as well. Because if Austin Aries win this, I've heard rumors actually that James Storm might be coming back to NXT to reunite with an old friend. Obviously, the assumption there is that we're going to get sort of a reunification of Beer Money in NXT. That kind of dampers a little bit of the hope that people were having that we would get a reunion of the Dirty Heels. So I'm thinking Jose might actually win just because of how lukewarm Austin Aries' response has been in NXT. So here's to hoping No Way Jose picks up a big victory on this live special over Austin Aries and gets maybe even a semblance of a push going out, going beyond Brooklyn 2.
I mean, I completely agree with you, but see, this is how my mind works. Well, really for all preview and predictions videos, but especially when we get to matches like this where I think it's such a toss-up. Austin Aries did, he won at his debut in a takeover against Baron Corbin. Then he lost to Shinsuke Nakamura. So he's in kind of a dead heat right now. So I guess he wouldn't necessarily even need this win. But that's kind of been a worry in my mind, too. It's like Austin Aries, it feels like he hasn't won a big match in a while. And they could give him this just kind of bolster his credibility. But the thing is, and this is kind of showing my hand a little bit for the next match, I don't really know if we're going to see a changing of the guard for the NXT Championship, which I may change my mind when we get to the main event. So I don't think there's any reason to really build Austin Aries because I don't see him as a title contender in the foreseeable future. Just give No Way Jose this win, and let's focus on bigger and better things, that being his career because he's the younger guy, I think, with a lot more upside. So I'm hoping he gets the win here.
Yeah. I really hope Jose wins. If Austin Aries wins, I won't be surprised, but I will be disappointed.
I'm right there with you.
So then let's get to our second match, Andrade Cien Almas versus Bobby Roode. And since you went first on the last one, I'm just going to say it. Bobby Roode is obviously winning this, in my opinion.
I have to completely agree with you again. It's such a peculiar match, Ashton, because Andrade, while he's still, he's not necessarily new, but he's still newish. Like, I feel like he hasn't been totally initiated, and he's already in this kind of situation where he's working with a quote-unquote newer guy, despite the years of experience. I'm talking new in relative to NXT, and Bobby Roode. It's just really weird to see Andrade in this position when I felt like he was going to get built up for a little bit. But I do agree with you. Roode's going to get the win. I would actually hope that maybe Andrade would be so bitter coming out on the losing end of this feud, he would turn heel, and then we could really start having a discussion here. Because
I want him to be a heel so bad. Like, going back and watching Naito's CMLL excursion, La Sombra was so good in CMLL. And he was an amazing heel, and that's what he needs to be in NXT. And it's like, I get it, he's a good-looking guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has to be a good guy. You know, if anything, that almost lends itself to him being a heel, because that makes people jealous that he's a good-looking guy. You know, like he's this show-off character who, you know, chills out on the ropes like he's a freaking model. How is that anything but a heel gimmick?
And you know, dude, like, I'm just going to reiterate, and hopefully this is the last time I say it, because I really don't want this to become a Roman Reigns thing, although I feel like it's going to be a Roman Reigns thing. I feel like my expectations were subverted by NXT, because you see the vignettes for Andrade, and I said this a lot when he first came in. You see him watching a film reel of himself, you know, wrestling as La Sombra, and he takes the mask off. Now, you and I, because we're not proud of our ignorance, you know, we have become more culturally initiated in the Lucha Libre culture, you know, thanks to Lucha Underground, thanks to a little bit we've touched with AAA. We know that's a big fucking deal when you take your mask off. And I'm like, oh, man, you know, like, that's almost sacrilege that he's committing right there. Certainly he's got to be a heel. And then he debuts wearing the hat. And I love the theme. I do love the theme. I haven't listened to it in a while, but there was a time where I was really smashing the replay button on it. But yeah, just him as a babyface, it's weird. It's weird. I'm still not comfortable with it. And for him to already be fed, and I am going to say fed here, to Bobby Roode, I'm hoping this is kind of a sign of a reboot, that he lost on a big stage. He has sour grapes about it. And so he changes his tactics, because when you look like he does, and hey, I'm confident enough in my sexuality and my masculinity to say, Andrade Cien Almas, he's a good looking dude. Like, that is not a dude that should be getting cheered when you look like that. It's the same thing we say about Roman Reigns. Dude, you look like you do, and you expect me to sympathize with you? Go fuck yourself. And that's the same thing I want to tell Andrade, you know? So, lose to Bobby Roode. Lose to him again even on an NXT TV rematch. Maybe he's so burned up. And then turn heel. And then you know what? Maybe you could have a returning Ty Dillinger as a babyface. And then if you really want to resume that feud, you could flip the dynamics. And then maybe Ty gets on a winning track. And then you could really push Andrade going forward. I don't know. He just needs to be a heel. That's all I know.
I definitely can get behind that. And I agree with basically everything you just said. I don't necessarily think that Ty being the face and Andrade being the heel would mean that Ty could win. If anything, that just means that Andrade needs to win a scathing promo about how much Ty sucks to get sympathy on Ty. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that's my opinion. But hey, man, we agree so far. I believe we've both picked No Way Jose and Bobby Roode.
And what is sure to be a glorious NXT debut.
Glorious. So, no, I will give in till I'm victorious. Come on, John.
No, I'm not. That's all you. I ain't touching that. But regardless.
How am I the only one that's been singing on these last couple shows? All right, whatever. Up next, let's talk about the only match left that I know, John, if it was up to you, this would be the main event of the show. But we're gonna talk about this now because it's the only match left that doesn't have championship implications. Ember Moon versus Billie Kay. And yeah, go ahead and pick. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So looking forward to this match. I mean, Takeover's made for me right here. I even told her so myself. Told her, you are what I'm most looking forward to on TakeOver Brooklyn 2. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe. What? Like, all I need me is some Ember Moon. Have not stopped watching the vignette. I watched some other content of her today. I watched her say goodbye to WSU, which is the promotion where she really made her mark. She said goodbye to all the girls. Like, this is the beginning of the prophecy, the prophecy of fire. Ember Moon. You guys already know my thoughts on the last NXT Twit Wow. I want her and Billie Kay because Billie Kay is no slouch. I don't want this to just be, a celebratory kind of masturbation session here of me just putting over Ember Moon, though that's totally what it's going to end up being. Billie Kay is a very capable, amazing performer who at any time, if they really keep pushing her and consistent in that pushing, could challenge Asuka and be believable. That's really what I see in her. Unfortunately, she is going to hit a snag because she has, you could call it the honor or the responsibility, what have you, of having Ember Moon's debut match. Ember Moon is clearly winning this. You don't debut somebody at a takeover for them to lose. I don't know if that's ever happened, and if it has, it's so rare. I don't see it happening here. Ember Moon to win, presumably after the O phase, which I don't know what they're going to rename it with the Ember Moon gimmick. And I am so excited because she is just going to inject life in that women's division. Not that it's on life support. I think it's in pretty good shape, but she really is going to be part of that like 4-horse women 2.0 kind of deal. Like that's where I see her air being. She's that good. So Ember Moon for the win. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what? Since we're talking about renaming the O face, let's just call it the Prophecy of Fire.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a sick name that they've already used for kind of describing her character. Might as well just go all the way with it, right?
Definitely.
Kind of like how Killshot had that killer instinct or whatever it was
with
his
so
double
good.
stop. That, like let's just go all the way, brother.
I'm right there with you, my man. I'm right there with you.
And yeah, of course, Ember's gonna beat Billie, and I won't cry, but I will be quite depressed. So let's talk about the first of the 3 championship matches, and personally, the match that I think I'm actually looking most forward to.
Ooh.
Versus Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano.
Okay, since you're most looking forward to it, what do you see going down here?
Well, I mean, it makes sense, too, because it was actually my turn to go first anyway, since you went first for Ember. We're flip-flopping here. And this is a really difficult pick for me. And I think that's a big reason why I'm looking so forward to it, because I have no clue who's going to win this. I think that the Revival, it feels like they literally just won back the titles. And they did. It was in like May, wasn't it, that they got the titles back?
I believe you're right, yes.
So they've only held them for 3 months, but at the same time, let's be real. American Alpha needs some competition in the SmackDown Tag Division, and it doesn't look so far after about a month post-draft worth of programming. It doesn't really look like they're trying to build anyone up on SmackDown other than American Alpha, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They just kind of have this mishmash of a bunch of different teams, but no one really stands out, and no one's really being made to stand out. But at the same time, the kind of characters Ciampa and Gargano are, it's kind of like that Enzo and Cass factor where you can't have them win the titles on their first big attempt at them, because that kind of takes a little bit of that sympathetic trait away from their characters. So I'm very hesitant to do this because I think it would make more sense to do it the other way around. But again, hesitantly, I have to pick the Revival to retain.
And as much as this may or may not surprise you, I agree with you. I'll tell you what the biggest wrench in me coming to this decision is, because like I already confided everybody earlier, I struggled a lot more, I think, with this card than I did the SummerSlam card. The big conundrum for me about this match was actually a team that wasn't even in this match, and that's the Authors of Pain. Because I'm wondering, how soon does NXT want to get those guys in the title picture? And I'm thinking, you know what? They probably want to take their time a little bit. Normally, I think when you look like the Authors of Pain do and you've got the presence that they do, you kind of want to hotshot them. I don't know if NXT necessarily wants to do that. And we know that they're going to be doing a program with TM61. And we've seen moments happen on NXT TV just as much as we see them happen on takeovers. There's no reason why Ciampa and Gargano can't win on a special episode of NXT if there's a rematch. So I think right now the Revival are going to retain the titles, but Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are going to win those championships. I mean, there's no question in my mind, because I really see them as the team to feud with AOP. In fact, that'll probably be their second really big feud right after the Revival get their return match. But in this particular battle, I do see the Revival retaining. So you and I are in agreement about that as well.
Yeah, I think that the Revival are, and I could even see, just because of how entertaining they are, how good they are in the ring, how confident they are, I could honestly see the NXT crowd turning them face, and that could eventually lead to them being victims of the Authors of Pain.
Dude, I've had a similar thought. Like the past month or two, I'm like, could it work? And I think you and I may have even started to talk about it a little bit on an NXT Twit Wow. And maybe you and I both were a little bit more hesitant about the idea back then, but I think we've warmed up to it now because the Revival really are freaking amazing in there. And I think they work a style that the only reason you hate them for it is because they work with guys that you love just that much more, like American Alpha, like Gargano and Ciampa. Pretty soon, opponents like that are going to run out. And I guarantee you, when the Revival are staring down the barrel known as AOP, the Authors of Pain, I think the crowd is going to side with the Revival, and that'll begin, however brief, a face run. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That option is also quite viable in my eyes. But for right now, I think the end game is Gargano and Ciampa. It's just not going to start at Brooklyn too. So Revival to retain.
Yep, unfortunately. And let's talk about Ciampa and Gargano. Do you think Ciampa turns?
No way. I think they are going to do a feud, but it won't be until they drop those titles to Authors of Pain. At least that's how my headcanon goes, my fantasy booking. So, yeah, I think, they have a little bit of a run. They come into AOP, they come against them. They lose. And then Ciampa snaps, and we have an amazing singles feud with hopefully at that time NXT Championship implications, with hopefully a babyface champion, thinking Hideo, and then Ciampa and Hideo go into a program. Because I see the world in Tommaso Ciampa, and let me tell you something, I think 2017 is going to be very kind to him. Very kind. And I think, yeah, we're going to plant the seeds when they win the NXT tag titles. Just, again, not at Brooklyn,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that there are two potential babyface heel moments that we could have between Ciampa and Gargano. It'll either be, it depends on how Dawson and Wilder win. If they win clean as a freaking whistle, I think it might happen at this show. I think Ciampa might turn on Gargano at this show, especially if Gargano's the one that gets pinned. That, I think, would be kind of a final straw. If the Revival win in a cheaty way, or they win via disqualification or countout or some way that could have sort of an out where Ciampa and Gargano could get back in the picture relatively quickly for the titles, I think Gargano, or Ciampa rather, might hold off until after they lose the rematch.
Right.
But I think right now, I think that the Ciampa character is a rubber band, and he's pulled back really, really far. And the only thing keeping him from being completely let go of and snapping is the potential that he could win the tag titles with Gargano. I think that right now, even though they're making it seem like, oh yeah, he's my brother, I'm going to be in his wedding and all that stuff, I think that Ciampa sees Gargano strictly as a pawn for him to potentially win championship gold in NXT, tag team gold. And if they lose that opportunity, if that becomes an impossibility for them in any way, I think that'll be Ciampa snapping and turning heel and attacking Gargano.
I just love the way that you lined all that up and you laid it all out, because now when I'm watching this match and we're doing live reactions come Saturday, I'm just going to be looking at Ciampa, looking at Gargano, and I'm going to be thinking that he's thinking, oh, you fucked this up, Johnny. You fucked this up. You eat that pin, I'm beating your ass. So I'm just thinking is he going to snap? So, but yeah, man, you do bring up an interesting point, and we definitely do seem to be in agreement that Ciampa sooner or later is going to have a strong heel singles run in NXT, because he started to, but then him and Johnny got back together and they resumed doing the tag thing, which, to be honest, at the time was disappointing to me, because I loved seeing Ciampa work heel, but I've really enjoyed Johnny and Tommaso coming together and doing their thing. I'm just, again, I think 2017 is going to be really kind to Ciampa. I think he's going to snap on Johnny. They're going to have a program, and then Ciampa's going to go right for Hideo in the NXT Championship. And I think starting as a tag team, Booker T always said, you get your best single stars through tag teams. Giving them this tag team experience, this tag team story, I think is going to do wonders for both guys. And whether or not they can beat the Revival, well, we'll find out Saturday.
Yeah, and I agree with you that Ciampa's got a great heel singles run ahead of him, and I think Gargano, we keep underestimating him. He might be that next Daniel Bryan type character who really just connects with the audience and gets to a point where he's so beloved that it forces WWE to put a title on him.
Oh, dude, if I had it my way, I'll tell you right now, because I know I've been shortchanging Gargano, and I apologize for that, but if I had it my way, heel Ciampa would beat Hideo, go on maybe like a 5-month reign, maybe 6 months, and Gargano would be the one to end it. And then Gargano would go on his babyface run. We'd bring it full circle. That would be how I'd book it personally. But yeah, I
mean on the
think
main
Gargano
roster,
goes.
though. I'm talking Gargano might be the next Daniel Bryan on the main roster, not even necessarily in NXT. Anyone can be the next Daniel Bryan in NXT. Freaking Ty Dillinger could be Daniel Bryan in NXT.
Yeah.
They love everyone.
Yeah, you're really not even wrong. As far as the main roster goes, see, it's funny because when we do start talking about the main roster, that's when my tune kind of changes a little bit, because I can almost see Gargano surpassing Ciampa on the main roster, but Ciampa surpassing Gargano on NXT. It's weird. But I definitely see Gargano as a huge babyface upside, I think, that would make him likable and sympathetic to a lot of people. So we'll see how it all comes down, and we'll see how it all turns out.
All right. I'm glad that we can end it on that note. Let's talk about our women's championship match, the return match, Bayley Asuka. John, rather than asking you, 50-50 who's going to win, I'm just going to say this.
Yeah.
Does Bayley have a shot at getting her title back at all?
No, not in my mind at all.
I don't think so either. Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you, man. I don't think that there's any way Bayley wins her title back. I think she will be called up to the main roster, maybe even as early as this coming Monday on Raw.
I heard she was going to get called up anywhere from September to October, but again, dirt sheets, grain of salt, blah, blah, blah. So it could be Raw. It could be for a SmackDown pay-per-view. Maybe the SmackDown snags her up because Lord knows SmackDown, even though they're doing great with the women, they could always use more. John,
because SmackDown is getting Emma because she's replacing Eva Marie in the tag match on Sunday.
I'm not going to feed that, man. I want to believe it, but I'm not going to feed that. My heart can't take that, man. But let's hope you're right.
Wait, what just happened? I have a headache and I just blacked out a little bit.
Oh, it's fine. Nothing happened. But regardless, I completely see where you're coming from, dude. And my thing is, when I say not at all, Bayley's already established. Like, she's in that Finn Balor territory. She can't do anything else. And quite honestly, I don't want her to do anything else. I think NXT realizes what they have in Asuka. And I think they want to make the first person to really beat her be a huge deal. Now, for the record, let me just say this right away. I'm not saying it's going to be Ember Moon. I'd love for it to be Ember Moon. It doesn't have to be Ember Moon.
Out of the current women's roster, Ember Moon seems like the most likely.
She does seem like the most likely, but dude, they could surprise us. Billie Kay could continue on this tear. Maybe she could get the win. Alexa's done. I was going to say Alexa. See, I'm not even used to them being called up yet.
Even then, I don't think Alexa would have been the type of person that would beat Asuka. She doesn't have the credibility. She doesn't have the size. She doesn't have the believability. It's just not there with her.
I mean, it really, if you take the time to really invest in somebody, it could be anybody that NXT deems worthy. I mean, Ember Moon, of course, is on my mind, but to me, it's up in the air. I can tell you definitively, it's not going to be Bayley because Bayley doesn't need it. And that's the biggest reason why. How does she benefit? To me, honey, go to the main roster. Be with your friends. I keep thinking about that. I want to be with them all the time. Have her lose this match, and for God's sakes, let her leave NXT. It really is becoming Balor-esque, where I'm like, okay, guys, when you gonna let her go? You're gonna, And so have the clinic. I don't think I'll say this too right now because I think they're trying to recapture the magic they had with Bayley Sasha. I personally don't think this match will come close to that. Maybe they'll surprise me. But, I mean, Bayley Sasha had such an amazing story. No way you can replicate that. No freaking way. That's why the first Brooklyn really is one of my favorite TakeOver events, just because of that match alone. I mean, the electricity, the story, everything. Has this been a good story? Sure. But to be quite honest, I don't care about it. I care more about the epilogue, that being Bayley going on the main roster and doing her thing, and Asuka's next challenger, whoever that may be. So, yeah, Asuka with the win. And Bayley, that's her curtain call. She takes a bow. She goes to the main roster.
Definitely. Hopefully, literally like a night or two later.
Exactly. Don't waste any time
I mean,
with
you
it.
said
Just get her back.
September, October, and I don't think anyone would complain if she got called up within the next 2 months, but really, she should be getting called up like a month ago, if not even earlier than that, rather than in a month. It really, the sooner they call her up, the more sense it would make. And that's admittedly also kind of how I felt about Enzo and Big Cass this past December, 4 months before they actually got called up. So obviously my instincts for this kind of thing aren't nearly as good as I hope they would be, but WWE's got to make a good decision eventually. A broken clock is right twice a day. Please, for the love of God, call up Bayley as soon as you possibly can.
I can't articulate it any better than you just did. Let's move on.
Main event time. Shinsuke Nakamura versus the world champion of NXT, Samoa Joe and John. I got to do it, man. I hate to do it, but I have to. I have to go with my gut. I have to go with what I think is going to happen rather than what I think makes the most sense or what I want to happen. I think Nakamura's winning this, man.
What? Oh, what? Oh,
I hate it. I hate it. I despise it. It makes no sense that Nakamura would stay on NXT even to get to Takeover Brooklyn 2. He should have been on the main roster by like May. But here we are in August, and he's challenging for the NXT World title, and he's undefeated. He's not losing. He should lose. It would make more sense for him to not even be in this match than for him to lose, or then for him to win the title, but he's probably going to win the title, and it's probably going to be an all-Japanese main event when we go to Japan for TakeOver in October, Nakamura versus Hideo. And I hate it because it should be Joe versus Hideo, because I hate face versus face matches, but God damn it, this is NXT, and they think they're ROH, and they're not actually booking that much better than ROH, so Nakamura is going to freaking win.
It's so funny because all the reasons you gave, at least pertaining to the Shinsuke character, I agree with 10,000%. It's just funny how you and I internalize that, because you internalize it as Shinsuke winning like definitively. I hate myself. If you hate yourself for your prediction, I hate myself for mine, because it's totally contrary to what I've gotten used to on NXT, but I can't fucking shake it. See, that's always that one match with John. Jesus Christ, what is he feeling this time? I think Shinsuke's winning, but I think it's by DQ. I think Joe is so paranoid that the story in that match is he's paranoid, he's serious, he's taking the fight to Shinsuke, but the thing about Shinsuke is he can fight back. And I think Joe,
you need to understand how right I hope you are, how much I hope that I'm wrong. I don't think I've ever been this angry about having a gut feeling, about thinking that something's going to happen and really being convinced of it, because if Nakamura gets that title, it's going to be the ultimate lead anchor that is going to just weigh him down and be literally, it's going to be like, we're going to forget that he's even the NXT champion, because the NXT championship is going to be less important than the man holding it, because it's going to fall by the wayside, and it's not going to be NXT champion versus challenger. It's going to be Shinsuke Nakamura versus whoever the hell they put against him.
And what you just said, again, I agree with, and why I hate myself for this prediction, but why I feel like I have to make it, because I always have to come up with some defense every time I have a stupid gut feeling. I said it on NXT Twit. Wow, they have put themselves into a corner. Shinsuke is undefeated. Joe is still a relatively new champion, but not only that, because honestly, I feel like that argumentation is antiquated. I'm still using it anyway, though. Shows you the lack of pride I have in myself. But Joe is also a dominant champion, and he's a heel. I feel like you put yourself in a corner when you have matches like this. So what does WWE do when they put themselves in a corner? They blow it up. They blow it all up. And I feel like the best way you do that is have Joe, again, realize, oh, shit, I'm going to be beat by Shinsuke. The system is about to beat me. How do I say fuck you to the system? I do low blow, DQ on the biggest stage, because Brooklyn is a huge takeover show. I mean, that really does feel like their WrestleMania. And he's going to say, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck your main event. I'm NXT champion, kick him in the balls, walk out with my title. Shinsuke remains undefeated. I remain champion. And then honestly, because you know there's going to be a rematch, because it would feed into the story that Regal's against him, then you have Joe win. You have Joe find some way, whether undetected by the referee or what, to beat Shinsuke. We dodge the bullet. Joe moves on to Hideo. Shinsuke moves on to the main roster, and we all go home happy. But for this match, just to lay the groundwork, Shinsuke wins, but by DQ, because there's no way that title's changing hands, but there's no way Shinsuke's taking a loss, and that's the only resolution. And I was tossing and turning on this match so damn bad, you have no idea. Like, Balor, Rollins, and our upcoming SummerSlam preview predictions, I feel like was a fucking cakewalk compared to this. But I have to go with my gut.
I feel like that match is a cakewalk, period. I don't have any actual, I'm not waffling at all on that match.
Yeah, I waffled so bad on this, dude. It was ridiculous. And really, I just got to go with that. I'm going with my gut this one time.
Honestly, dude, I basically decided if you're going to make a pick here that could eventually lead you to be disappointed, at least pick somebody who, if you're wrong, you'll be happy about it, because then it's a win-win. If you get the pick right, you get the pick right, and that's good, even though you'd be pissed off about the result. If you get the pick wrong, then it sucks that you got the pick wrong, but you're happy because of the actual result. And, that's just me kind of working myself into a mental win-win at this pay-per-view. And honestly, I would say Nakamura winning by DQ would be the ideal scenario, but I don't think NXT is going to do that because, again, they think they're ROH. They're not going to screw their fans out of a finish on the biggest show of the year. They're in Brooklyn once a year. They're not going to screw over the Brooklyn crowd out of the biggest match that they've been advertising. I legitimately don't think that they're going to do a DQ finish. I think Nakamura is going to freaking win, and I hate it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Because the DQ finish was my gut instinct, and again, you're absolutely right. I'm not going to sit here and lie, oh, no, it could happen. No, a DQ finish goes contrary to everything that NXT is about. So I'd modify my prediction a bit. If I was really to be honest about NXT, I could see a ref bump. I could see Joe acting dirty and getting the win that way. He's not beating Nakamura clean regardless.
I hope you're right, because if that would happen, then Samoa Joe would become the greatest obstacle NXT has seen probably ever, because then not only was he the first and only person to beat the Demon at a live special, but then he would also be the first and only person to beat Nakamura, because he's also undefeated coming into this.
Right, exactly.
And if you'll remember, I believe I might have actually picked Balor as the Demon to beat Joe in that cage match, and that they were doing that. Or no, you know what? I predicted Joe to win by escape, though. Not
right.
I thought that the cage match was a way to protect the Demon, but they decided to go with it, and maybe they'll decide to go with it here, and I hope they do. But I can't shake this feeling that they're going to put the title on Nakamura, as much as I hate it. And by the way, just to kind of clarify for the people that aren't really sure why I hate the idea of Nakamura being champion, it's not because I don't like Nakamura. He is literally my single favorite performer in the entire WWE system right now. He's the king. He is my favorite. And before Tetsuya Naito had his excursion to CMLL and his heel turn and joining Los Ingobernables de Japón and all that stuff, Nakamura was my favorite performer in the world. And Nakamura is still in my top 5 favorite performers in the world. And that's exactly why I don't want him to become NXT champion, though, because if you put the NXT championship on Nakamura, he can't get called up as soon as he should. He shouldn't be contending for the NXT World Championship this weekend. He should be competing for the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
He should have been called up by May. He should have been in a main roster feud this entire time. He should be where Finn Balor is right now, competing for the Universal title with Seth Rollins. That match would be insane.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I really feel like Shinsuke is just kind of biding his time until he goes on to the bigger and better things, that being the main roster feuds. I mean, Shinsuke Cesaro, Shinsuke Rollins, Shinsuke. I mean, if he goes on SmackDown, Shinsuke Ambrose, Shinsuke Orton. Like he has.
That's what I'm saying. Like he needs to be on the main roster, and the reason that I'm so angry about the prospect of him winning the NXT title is because I think that the quickest anyone has ever been called up after having won the NXT championship is Kevin Owens. And even that was like 3 months after his title win. So it's basically, if Nakamura wins the title, it guarantees that he will not get called up to the main roster until at the earliest, probably November. And that tells me maybe they would even hold off until the post WrestleMania 33 Raw, which would just piss me right the hell off.
Yeah, because he's a guy you need to call up. I mean, yesterday, if we're being honest.
I mean, yeah, Alberto Del Rio just got suspended. How long before someone else gets suspended? Nakamura doesn't have any kind of issues with drugs or steroids or anything like that. He is a better performer than 98% of your roster. He's one of maybe, I would say, fewer than 5 people in your company that could have a credible match against Brock Lesnar, and he's still freaking just chilling, doing nothing, challenging for the championship for no reason whatsoever in your developmental system. It's stupid in my opinion, but
absolutely.
I'm glad I got that rant out of the way though, because I've been holding that in for so long. It is so dumb to me. And to me, the worst possible thing that they could do is, we're going to Japan, so let's have our world title match be between 2 Japanese guys.
No. Look, the best thing to do for Japan, and you and I have talked about this, tell the story between Hideo and Joe. We've been talking about Joe ran down Hideo. He took him out, and Hideo, building himself back up. And that's how you do it.
And the thing, too, is the way that you sell tickets to a big show like that where you have a title match is you want people to be paying to see a title change. You don't want the people to be paying because they're going to root for Nakamura to keep the title. You want people to be paying because they want Hideo to take the title from Joe. That's how you get a ridiculous amount of people to go to your show and buy tickets to your show, is by getting them to want to see a title change.
Exactly.
And if Nakamura holds the title, not only are they not going to be as interested in seeing a title change, because New Japan was always far more popular than Pro Wrestling Noah, which is where Hideo did most of his work at, but also because Nakamura just won the title a couple months prior. And what are the odds of him actually dropping it that quickly to a guy like Hideo? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It makes the least amount of sense possible. But if you give it to Joe, if you keep the title on Joe and you have him hold the title for 5 months from May to October, and then October rolls around and Hideo is his challenger in Japan, now you've got a story where people want to buy tickets to come see the champion change hands, or the championship change hands, rather. It's just the NXT, if they put the title on Nakamura, which I am still predicting, if they do it, it's the dumbest decision they could have possibly made.
I want to believe that NXT is smarter than that. I want to believe it, because when you talk about the Japan show,
I wanted to believe that the WWE was smarter than waiting until the post WrestleMania 32 Raw to call up Enzo and Cass.
That's a fair point. But when you talk about the Japan show,
I wonder, Vince has already been quoted saying he wishes he could have signed AJ Styles a decade earlier. I wonder how many people he has said that about, but hasn't been quoted on about calling up to NXT earlier.
Yeah, that could be true. That's a very interesting question. I hear your sentiments about the show in Japan. That's exactly how it should go down. And to me, they better not do Shinsuke and Hideo, because it'll be just like this. I feel like if they would do that match, they'd book themselves into a corner again. And I hate when any promotion does that. And if you do it, and I think a thing that makes me angry about that is I want them to commit. Like Lucha Underground, when they had Prince Puma versus Pentagon Jr. for the first time, they committed to a finish, but it was ambiguous enough. Like, Pentagon had Puma in the surfboard. His shoulders were down. He got pinned. So Puma got the win, but it protected Pentagon. I don't trust WWE to be that clever, which is why they always make me so nervous when they book themselves into a corner, because I feel like they blow shit up. I would have Joe beat Shinsuke. Be dominant, beat Shinsuke, send a message, because that would make him so fucking credible that any babyface, and I'm looking at Hideo, to come and beat him is immediately a huge deal. But because they realize, wow, Shinsuke's undefeated and Joe's still our champion, I think they're going to do either a DQ finish again where Shinsuke wins but Joe keeps the title, or we do a ref bump and all that stuff and Joe still wins. But you know what? In this case, I don't even care, because I'm with you. I don't want Shinsuke to win the championship. I want him to get called up. So even if you have to do your stupid, convoluted booking that you always do when you're backed into a corner that you yourself created, I can accept that. Just don't put the title on Shinsuke. So I'm going all in on Joe. Whether it's a dirty win or a DQ, he is walking out with that NXT championship.
Yeah, and to me, I think the perfect finish to this match, you have Joe hit the muscle buster, Nakamura kicks out, and then Joe immediately goes into the Coquina clutch and wins by ref decision. Not even tap out, just Nakamura passes out, the ref calls the match, and it's over.
I think that's brilliant because that protects both guys. It gives Joe the win, but Nakamura didn't get punked out. He passed
exactly,
out.
And it makes Joe look like a ruthless killer because he didn't give Nakamura any breathing room. As soon as Nakamura kicks out of that muscle buster, Joe doesn't do this big, expressive, like, what? Oh, my God, it kicked out of my best shot kind of thing. He just immediately flips Nakamura over, locks in the Coquina clutch, and gets to pass out.
Yeah, dude. And by the way, too, this does come from a place of subjectivity for me because I'm fucking loving Joe's run right now. I don't want it to stop. I think he's doing amazing work. And that's why, like, I know there are people, like, all those sentiments you expressed about Shinsuke, I guarantee you there are people that feel the same way about Joe. The only difference is I feel like Joe's actually growing by being NXT champion. I don't see how Shinsuke could grow with that belt. I think Joe's only becoming better and honing his skills even further. When he drops that belt, yeah, dude.
That's what I mean, though, when I say that Nakamura as champion would make the championship less important because it would fall by the wayside because it would be less about the title and more about the person.
Exactly. I think Joe's the perfect champion right now. I really do.
Yeah, he really is.
And when he drops that belt, I'll tell you what my next thought is. Oh, please go to SmackDown because I want Joe's first feud to be with John Cena. Like, if he did it with Kevin Owens and he did it with AJ, I want Joe Cena. And then I want Joe Lesnar. Like, I want him to fight everybody.
Yeah. Joe Lesnar, again, I mentioned earlier that Nakamura was one of fewer than 5 guys that could have a credible match against Lesnar. I think Joe is another one.
Exactly. So let Joe, let this run breathe. Let him go on it. Let him show what an amazing heel he is because I'm loving I didn't think I could love a run as much as I loved Kevin Owens' run for as brief as it was. But Joe has just been fucking ace with that championship. Don't ruin Nakamura's momentum. Don't ruin Joe's momentum. Do not blow this shit up, NXT. Do not. Especially when Hideo is primed. When you go to Japan, he is going to be so ready by that point because you said that show's in December, right?
No, October, I think.
October. Well, still, that's a little.
Remember, the December live special is going to be in like Australia or New Zealand or something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Regardless, though, I mean, it is still a little ways away, not as much as December. And you could build Hideo up, and he'd just be so fucking ready. Like, it's all right there. I hope they don't screw it up, dude, because that might actually be because I know we also review pay-per-views now. That might actually be rant territory for me. It sounds like it'll be rant territory from you if they go this route. I hope they're not that stupid.
All right, well, I'm glad that we got all that stuff out of the way, though. That is actually the final match on this card. I mean, obviously, it was the main event. We've been talking about how it's the world title match, the main event and stuff. So, John, any last thoughts on NXT TakeOver back to Brooklyn before we get into the main roster mode and switch over to WWE SummerSlam?
Just again, this card is stacked. Anticipation. I'd actually say talking with you, brother, got my blood stirring a little bit. I'm up to a 9.5 out of 10 now, and I started this thing as a 9. So just a little bit popped me up.
Talking about it has gotten me up to a solid 9 as well. I started at an 8.5. So we both went up about a half a point.
There you go. Yeah, this card is stacked. Again, cannot wait for Ember Moon. One quick side note about that. I hope she has good theme music. That's all I've been thinking about, too, is I wonder what her theme music is.
The conversation we just had, and all you think about is Ember Moon.
I can't get unstuck on it. And plus, she could be the only thing that I could say was a good night, because if Shinsuke wins the NXT Championship, that's all I'm going to be able to fall back on is, well, hey, Ashton, it could be worse. Ember Moon couldn't have debuted, and you're just going to look at me like this son of a bitch. I just,
son of a bitch is bragging about the woman that debuted and beat one of my favorite women.
I know, right? Wow, NXT TakeOver back to Brooklyn could be a really shitty night for you, but we'll see how that all works out.
It really could, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. I love talking about it with you, and now I'm even more hyped to talk about SummerSlam, which will be in a little bit, guys, so good stuff.
Yeah, 15 minutes till SummerSlam, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all have your SummerSlam predictions ready to compare to what we have to say. We will be going live with that at 9 p.m. I will post a link to the SummerSlam hangout in the chat. So if you want to stick around and wait for that, it'll be maybe 2 or 3 minutes before I post a link to that. And then we'll be going right into that at 9 p.m., which is in 15 minutes from right now. It's going to be interesting. Stay tuned.